Hello, I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the UnityProcess.com. In today's video, I'm going to be talking with Kai Ashley, who helps people to reprogram or work through their programming and their subconscious beliefs so that they can rise up to live their life purpose. And I'm just going to start right into this and start asking her questions, and we'll go from there. So Kai, welcome.
Hi.
And I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better and get to know what you do. So tell me, what is it that you do? Give me your elevator speech.
Well, I help passionate entrepreneurs to reprogram their subconscious and remove their blocks so they can rise up into their purpose. It's all very much about overcoming anything in the way, whether it's anxiety or sabotage or even physical issues like sciatica and fibroids, anything like that. I heal the physical and the emotional body so that people can be free to move forward.
Okay. Now, is that like a product that you sell, or is that like sessions or something like that?
Yeah, it's sessions, it's digital programs, but my main passion is one-to-one coaching.
Okay. And what exactly does a session look like?
Well, my sessions are quite long. I'm a very high touch coach. I very much love to know everything about my clients' lives, where we find out everything that's happening, everything that's blocking them. And then when I find out how they're feeling, then we just jump in. And by jumping, I mean we do an EFT, like where we tap all over the body, but I do my own version where I incorporate a lot of breath work and a lot of visualization and spiritual type stuff where we call upon the divine and we use our own inner powers to heal any blocks that are in the way. So like if you're feeling something physical in your throat, like every time you try to go on to doing a live stream, you feel that blocked and you feel this lump in your throat, I'll work with the lump to remove it so it's not even there anymore, and then you feel free next time that you try to go on live stream, and it's like easier than ever before.
Okay. Can you define what a subconscious block is? So you kind of talked about how a lump in the throat kind of thing. Would that be a subconscious?
Yeah, absolutely, because that lump in your throat, it seems like it's just a feeling, but it actually has an opinion. And it comes from an experience that we had when we were younger, where perhaps you got up in front of class and you were trying to talk and everybody made fun of you, or you embarrassed yourself in some way. Then that creates this belief that says it's not safe to talk in front of people. Then every time you go to do that in the future, it's activated in your body as a feeling, but it actually has a very real opinion underneath saying you're going to mess up, so stop what you're doing. So we go and we find those hidden beliefs that everyone is running underneath the surface, and we just sort of dissolve it and change its mind so that you feel safe and confident and capable to move forward.
Okay, so like in Westworld, they would call that a loop. Like somebody had these program loops, and they go through these loops every day.
Yeah.
And so would you say that this is connected to the principle of cause and effect?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like everything is just a consequence. You do one thing, you feel one way, you believe one thing, and then you get a consequence that happens after it. So I always teach my clients that it's not like we've been taught that getting the things that we want is a reward for good behavior, I've noticed, but it's not a reward, it's just cause and effect. It's just a consequence for the certain way you think, the certain way you show up, and who you're being.
Okay, good. And what, you said that you do EFT. How long have you been doing EFT?
About 10 years, since 2010.
Okay, and where did you learn it?
In San Francisco. I was fortunate enough to have had a pretty spectacular nervous breakdown, and instead of thinking there was something wrong with me, I knew it was a message that I was living a life out of alignment. So I started looking for ways to heal, and I just sort of so-called randomly found a healing retreat going on by a beautiful lady named Sonia Sophia, who does a very spiritual type of EFT. And I got to tap for like 5 to 7 hours a day for days and days and days and days in a row. And I used to have PTSD and social anxiety and all these like mental health issues and physical body issues. And after using the process, even just in a few short weeks for like binge tapping hours, it helped me significantly. But as I kept going back over years, that's where the big, massive life transformations happened.
Okay. And did you notice that in that small space that everybody was kind of grumpy because they were just all decompressing and I mean, what was your experience with that? Because I've had some weird experiences with EFT retreats where I actually one time I decided just to create a list of beliefs that I had found that
Yeah.
prohibit love. And we went through and we tapped them all on day one or a certain segment of them. And we came back for day two and people were just grumpy. They were upset. They were decompressing. Their lives were in chaos because we had just hit too many beliefs all at
Mm.
once. Is that something that you've ever experienced or
Well, there's
in
a
a way?
little bit of that, but the way that I've been taught to do EFT is very mind-body, very breathy, which means the reason why that's significant that it's breathy is that it actually clears the trauma out of the cells much more quickly than regular EFT.
Okay.
So yeah, people had their stuff, but actually it was more, people were more connecting with each other because we were also, especially after the first few days, starting to do like class swaps and in groups, and we also did dancing in between and all these sorts
Oh,
of exercises to help like integrate it into our body. So it wasn't really like just the regular sort of EFT that people are learning. It was very spiritual with a lot of breath work and visualization and weird woo-woo crazy stuff in between.
okay. And what is EFT, if you could just give us a quick breakdown in case people don't know?
Yeah, well,
What is your
EFT,
definition?
yeah, it's the emotional freedom technique. And I can tell you, once you use EFT, the emotional freedom technique, you start to realize how your anxiety and your depression and your negative beliefs are actually a prison. They imprison you into these mindsets, which imprison you into this worldview that we just don't want to be in. So the emotional freedom technique uses the ancient concept of acupuncture, the same sort of points, the power points on the body, but instead of using needles, we tap on them. We pulse energy through the body, which helps to clear all the negative trauma that's stuck in there while using an advanced form of talk therapy that brings up the negative, but it actually dissolves it because there's a very special thing that happens when you bring up the negative and you let it be negative, but you also send it a second feeling of love and acceptance and understanding. It just dissolves on its own and it releases the block.
Okay, so you're tapping on these points while you're also doing talk therapy, but
Yeah.
you're saying it's an advanced form of talk therapy.
Yes.
How would it be different than regular talk therapy?
Well, it's call and response. I'm not diagnosing my client. I am tuning into how they're feeling and I'm just repeating back to what they're saying while also using the method that actually dissolves the block. So it's a lot of, even though I feel this way, I love and accept myself, but then you also have to be able to say, so sometimes people will say, oh, but I don't love and accept myself. Okay, that's fine. So you meet that and you say, actually, I don't love and accept myself, but I'm still going to be okay. Whatever comes up, you accept it, you allow it, you don't argue with them, you find a way to allow it to be okay. And it's like, you know how you can tell somebody that they're wrong and you'll fight back and you always want to be right? So you always let that part of you be right and you love it anyway. And then you can start changing your mind about it using logic and being like, wait there, does that make sense? No, that actually doesn't make sense. And then it will just start dissolving and it literally dissolves your neural pathways. It builds new neural pathways, not just in your brain, but all through your body. So it's super duper healing.
And what role, how do you find these patterns, these subconscious patterns? What role does pattern recognition play? How does that work?
How do I find the patterns? I just talk to them about their life. I just see what's happening. So I have this funny knack where I can talk to somebody and very quickly make them cry in like a few seconds flat. Like they might say to me, they'll just be telling me something about their life and maybe saying how they're trying to do something in their business and they just feel like nobody's hearing them no matter what they're posting, nobody's responding and it's feeling frustrating. So I take those exact same words that that person says and I'll say, so where in your childhood did you feel like people weren't listening and responding to you? And then all of a sudden they go, whoa, and all these tears will come out because they never connected the two. But generally, everything that's happening in your like adulthood is a carbon copy of what happened as a child. Unless you've done the inner work to change it, then it starts to be different. So if someone's saying that they're feeling like they're constantly not heard, then you can, I would bet money on that then as a child that they grew up feeling not heard. So we simply find those places in the childhood. We send lots of love, lots of light. Like light is an actual consciousness energy, and we send our consciousness, sorry, that's a bit, what we do is we imagine the childhood and then we send our loving and awareness back to there, and we do that in the form of light. And what that does is it just dissolves those neural pathways, holding that anger and the pain and the shame, and it just starts to release out of the body, because we hold actual energy in our body, like negative energy, which I call trauma balls, because we can find them in the body. Where you got that lump in the throat we were talking about earlier, we can actually find it, and it will be an actual solidified like type ball shape. And that what that will do is, if that's left unchecked and in certain ways, that'll compress and condense into actual physical disease. And that's why I can heal things like sciatica and fibro and fibroids just as well as anxiety, because it's all the same energy. It's just the physical stuff is condensed into more of an exacerbated issue.
Okay. So you mentioned that you're looking at current effects, and you're not just looking for current causes, you're looking for childhood causes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
like Aristotle would say that looking for first cause.
Yeah.
And so how is it that something from childhood as a cause back that can actually be a cause of something that's manifesting and it's being experienced in somebody's life right now?
That's just how humans work. Literally. We just go on these loops all throughout our patterns. It's set up so that when we have an experience in the womb even, or an early childhood, it teaches us this is how life is and this is what you can expect. So this is how you need to react. So it's actually a protection mechanism. Our sabotage patterns, like for instance, that example I used earlier where in front of the class you might have experienced something embarrassing, so then going live or doing public speaking is going to be really hard for you. That sets you up to realize, to help you think, wait there, people are real jerks, I better be careful because they're going to be mean to me again. But it does protect you as a child, but it becomes outdated because you're running off decisions from a 5-year-old's decision. Like when you're 5, you decided that people are jerks, like I'm not going to do this. And then 25, 35, 65 years later, you're still running off that same decision you made when you were 5 years old. And that's when it starts to become a real problem in your life, because you're no longer seeing life as it is, you're simply remembering it as it was and replaying those patterns and triggering those exact same patterns in other people who experience the same sorts of things. And so you just keep playing it out over and over again until you learn from it.
Okay. Now, okay, so what I was told is, or what I learned from when I was doing some of my research on this, is that in the first 8 years of life, we're in this open state of hypnosis. And while we're in that open state of hypnosis, we're just taking in information as if it's truth, the way that a hypnotist would tell somebody who's in a trance something is true. And then when they're out of the trance, they will then believe it as true and then operate as if that's true. And so the reason that a child is in an open state of hypnosis is because their frontal lobes have not fully developed yet. And by the age of 7 or 8, those frontal lobes start turning on. And once they are fully turned on, now that is reality. And so the first 8 years of life, everything that you experience, along with the underlying meanings that go along with that. So like if a parent does something for you, or they tell you what to do and they boss you around, those are actually communicating messages of, you're not capable, I have to tell you what to do because you're not smart. And so now the child is going to go through life the next, forever, from 8 on, repeating those I'm not capable messages, because that's what parents told them through their actions, through their behaviors, through the experiences themselves. So it's not even what a parent might have said, it's also what a parent might have done.
100%.
So that's just collaborating with you and what you said and agreeing with you. So my next question is, how might what you are talking about and what you do be beneficial for a world like we're living in right now? Why is that important?
Oh my gosh. Well, people are being programmed with all this information, all this emotional information is coming at people every single day, basically telling people that they're weak, telling people that they have some supreme overlord government that's the boss of them, telling people that the economy is failing, all these sorts of things. But I believe that the economy isn't some outside force. Like, I'm the economy. You're the economy. We are the economy. And so we create our own economy. And when you have beliefs in place, which is simply a thought that you agree with, when you believe that the outside economy doesn't affect your own personal economy, then you will continue to thrive and you will continue to make a difference in the world. And the way for people to really thrive is to wake up from these program states, this conditioning of these poverty states saying that money is hard, and these like oppressive states saying that we're not good enough and people are our enemy, when we all really need to come together. So the main thing to do is to deprogram yourself so you can become more conscious, which means that rather than thinking from these old programs that were forced upon us as children, we can think clearly. We also want to reprogram ourselves, because programs aren't a bad thing, but we want to be less thinking. We want to be thinking consciously more of the time. And when we are thinking from our programs, we want them to be supporting us and egging us on, telling us that it is safe to get up in front of people and speak, telling us that it is safe to go forward, telling us that it doesn't matter if we fail or not, because that's just learning from life. So I honestly believe that this is the most important work that a person can do, because without it, you're just repeating old patterns. You are a victim to the system, and we aren't victims unless we think we are, basically.
Right. So Mark Passio had something interesting to say. He said it's not that humans are good or evil. It's that they're programmable, and that people just repeat the programs that they're programmed with, and they act them out. Now, the difference between an unconscious person with an external locus of control or external identity and an internal locus of control or internal identity is that who's the one doing the programming? Is it somebody outside of you doing the programming, or are you consciously intending and creating the programs for yourself? And just going off and indulging yourself isn't necessarily and saying, I want money and I'm going to have money and this is going to be money. You have to kind of start understanding why you want money.
Yes.
So you want money because somebody outside of you told you that that's how you can be, you can look good, and that's how you can get women, and that's how you can feel like you have a good identity, and that's how you can, feel worthy and worthwhile and valuable and that kind of stuff. Or you have money as an effect of things that are going on within yourself. So it's kind of an internal cause, external effect, or external cause, internal effect. And what is it? And are you the one being caused in your life, or is the external world being caused in your life?
Yeah, that's such a great thing to consider. I think some people, or many people, would be shocked at just how programmed their opinions are, and how people think that their opinions are their own, but it's often coming from emotional driven media pumped at you with things that sound logical, but often they're actually just straight up lies. So people have to be very careful about what they're believing, and because people don't even realize how programmed they are.
Right. So there was an interesting episode on Elementary, which is the Sherlock show with
Love that movie.
the female.
I love it. Yeah, so much.
And there was a scene where he's saying something. Sherlock is saying something about how it's really easy to manipulate a herd, and really easy to predict what the group is going to do with mathematical certainty.
Wow.
But predicting an individual is near impossible, because individuals, when they actually become an individual, are very difficult to predict. And that's why, and then I'll do my expounding here after the show. That's what he said on the show. But that's why it's so important to become an individual and to break free from those group dynamics, and to stop seeing yourself as a member of a group and start seeing yourself as a unique individual, because the individual is the biggest minority. That is the minority, is the individual. It's not about your race or your skin or your religion or any of those kinds of things. It's about you being a unique person. And once you can do that, you break free. You break out of the matrix, so to speak.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that. I love that concept. It makes total sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, you can, there's also a movie called Frequencies
Oh, yeah.
that actually goes into this and how you can manipulate reality as a group just by manipulating the group and the algorithm, and that it's mathematical. It's mathematical. Like they can do it with mathematical precision. And Edward Bernays even talked about that, how even back in the early 1900s that they were able to manipulate the masses with mathematical precision
Wow.
just
Yeah.
through
Well,
the algorithm.
they've been doing it for centuries, and this is what people really need to realize is all the stuff happening in the media right now, no matter what it is, it always has a hidden agenda underneath, no matter how logical it seems or how much of a travesty it is. It's all engineered to influence society, and their masters are influencing society for centuries.
Right. Yeah, they're masters of groupthink. They understand the herd dynamics. And if you read Freud or his nephew, Edward Bernays, you would definitely understand group psychology. I mean, that was actually one of Freud's specialties was group psychology, and Edward Bernays took it to the next level.
Wow.
Um, so, and how would you say that your system is good at making individuals, your particular brand of EFT and conscious development?
Um, well, it just breaks down all of your preconceived notions and helps you actually see, it helps you think for yourself. So I'm often, like, especially in the one-to-one sessions, it's throwing your reality back at you so that you can look at it and go, does that really make sense? And as we let go of the conditioning that you've had, not only growing up, but also we do like generational healing and karmic healing, which is really easy. It's just like releasing self-judgment and visualizing the past, essentially, and doing the method on it. As we do that, then you start releasing all of this baggage that you're holding on to about like the way the world is, and you can start realizing how, like, or more like why it is that you do what you do, and then you can redecide and make new choices and stop repeating the past. It's just so essential that we start letting go of all of this past baggage, because otherwise people just keep repeating over and over again.
Okay. And why is it important that people understand? Why is it important that they ask why for when they're doing a session?
Um, well, like what you said about are you being programmed from the outside or from the inside, and especially, for instance, the example you gave with money, it's like our meanings are the most important thing. So as a child, you might have experienced some sort of failure. And if you had a really positive upbringing, your parent might have helped you feel that that just meant you were learning and you were doing better just by trying. And so that would have given you the meaning that, oh, look, like when I try, then I'm going to get better and it's okay. But then another child, they would experience a failure and the parent would have berated them for it, telling them that they should have done better. And then the meaning they would have gotten from the exact same experience was that they're stupid and they can't do anything in life. So it's really important that we keep asking ourselves why we believe things and what this means to us, because people are making up stories all over the place. Like everything that people are doing, they have a story attached to it. So the classic example is the woman chasing the guy or making all these excuses for why he's not calling her. I've seen it so many times, and I have to say to my clients, like, stop making up stories for why a guy is or isn't doing something. You just can never exactly know what's happening in their mind, but people build up all these stories based upon what happened to them in the past to justify their own actions. So we have to dismantle those stories and stop like mind reading, pretending like we can mind read what other people are thinking. So I think there was a lot of like random facts put together, but yeah.
So the mind reading, that would be actually arrogance. When you think you can mind read other people and you know their motivations, that's kind of arrogant to assume or presume that about other people.
Yeah.
And we need that humility to say, hey, maybe I don't know.
That's the biggest one. Yeah. Being able to say, I actually don't know.
So it sounds like this process is complicated and that it takes like a vast understanding or knowledge to really kind of figure out what's going on. Is all this very reasonable? Is it logical?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's definitely logical, but then again, logic can be used to prove just about anything. But yeah, no, it is logical. It's very, when you understand how everything is energy and even matter is actually just condensed energy, um, and you understand how humans' emotions work and all those sorts of things, then it's very logical, but it takes definite skill to know how to do it extremely well.
Yeah.
So I would say anyone can do it, but it also does take a bit of skill to actually do it especially well.
Okay. And the people that are more practiced, that are doing sessions with you more, and they're going within, they're letting you kind of observe them, and you're being the observer, and they're being the person that is being observed, the subject. And when you're objectively observing them and looking for their different experiences and looking for the contradictions and the root causes and those kinds of things, do they get better at that themselves? Do they start to kind of gain that skill?
Yeah, you get better I would say definitely you get better doing it the more times you do it. The best way to learn it is to actually do it yourself. And because it does deprogram you and it frees your conscious mind, you become more intelligent because you're not bogged down with all of these lies operating in your system.
Okay. And how long does a session last usually with you?
It varies. Some go as little as an hour, but usually they're around 90 minutes, but they can be upwards to 2 hours or so. It really depends on the person. If someone has this really deep traumatic thing happening, it can take a bit longer to completely dissolve the trauma underneath it.
Okay. And for people to really see benefit, is it just one session, or would they have to do multiple sessions?
Yeah, you have to do multiple sessions. Even just one session does really help. Like there's one person that I can specifically think of. She only ever did one session with me. Her whole entire business was coming to a bottleneck. She just invested all this money in this really expensive program and hadn't told her husband about it. And she's also a relationship coach. And so she started having relationship problems, and then she started getting depressed. And we did one big session, and it had lots of loud yelling to release all this energy from the frustration that she felt. And then right after that, her business picked up and everything was fine again. But usually it takes multiple sessions. It's hard to say how many because it's different for everyone. But the way I see it, it's a long-term journey, because every time that you rise up another level, most people have more fears come up. So, if you have been going along running a fairly successful business, for instance, but then all of a sudden you get an opportunity to speak on a stage in front of thousands or online in front of millions of people, then you're going to have all these fears come up, these old patterns telling you it's not safe. You might start sabotaging. You might even almost go to blow the whole thing. And then I'm there to basically help you release all of that before the sabotage happens. So that's why I mostly work with my clients on a long-term basis, so that I can help them release the sabotage before it even happens.
Okay. And how do you come up with what you're going to talk about? Do you have a plan that you go through, and each session is a specific
Really?
thing, or is it really, how do they have enough to deal with on a regular basis if they're doing it long-term?
Well, at the start of my session, I just say, hey, so tell me everything. What's been happening? And then they just talk, and I wait until some sort of emotion comes up. It could either be a negative emotion or something really positive, and we'll start on either note, because usually if something's really positive, you keep talking about it long enough, and eventually their voice will crack and something, well, oh, but I also have this fear. So I wish it was easier to describe, but I just know I am just very, very skilled.
Tuned in. Very skilled. And do you do these sessions with people once a week, once every other week, once a month? What have you found best?
Yeah, it depends on the package my client signs up for. Usually it's 2 or 3 sessions a month, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the client.
Okay, good. Is there anything you would like to share just about you, about what you do that I haven't already asked about that you want people to know?
Well, you've already been pretty thorough. I guess the main thing that I want people to know is just how possible change is. So many people are going through these patterns thinking that, oh, this is just how life is. But the truth is anything can be healed and changed, whether it's like a physical issue that the doctor told you is impossible to cure, or it's like some anxiety disorder, or it's just simply like you're stuck in your business thinking, well, people like me don't, do these bigger things. All of it is just a story that you're telling yourself that's held together by actual trauma, which is trapped negative energy. So I think the biggest thing that I would like people to understand is that humans on this earth, we have not been taught how to process our emotions. So people do the opposite thing that we're meant to do with our emotions. And so everybody has trauma, which is just trapped negative energy. And yeah, when you go in and you know how to release that trauma and change your mind about it, and then to align your energy with your desires, it all starts to unfold pretty easily, especially as you continue up with the personal development work. So yeah.
Okay, and you said something about processing your emotions.
Mm.
That is something that a lot of people say, but what is it that it actually is? What is processing your emotions?
To me, it's about understanding that all of your emotions have a message. So your negative emotions actually have a place. They're not a bad thing. But the way that humans have been taught to have their emotions, they become toxic and stagnant. A lot of your anxiety, one of the things I have my clients do is learn how to talk to their emotions, how to talk to their anxiety. Like that lump in the throat that we had come up, I might have my client actually tune in and say hi to it and ask it what it's scared of. And because it has a very real opinion, it will come up and say, oh, I'm scared, of being seen. Or it might simply say, well, I'm scared because you haven't done this very important thing that you keep putting off. And so then when the person listens to the emotion, either they make it feel safe because it might just be some irrational fear, or it might be because they're putting off something very important that they need to do. When they listen to that emotion, then they can actually change it very easily. So our emotions are also supposed to move through our body like an ocean wave, but the reason why we feel like the lump in our throat or the dropping in the heart or the sick belly is because we've pushed it down and it's just stagnated into one place. And so it turns into an actual condensed lump of energy, which can turn physical, and that's where the disease comes from. So we're actually supposed to be allowing the emotions to move through our body. So that's why people have so much trouble doing it on their own, because you have to be able to feel it and help it expand, which means that the anxiety, the fear, the shame is going to get worse just for a little while, just even for some seconds, a few seconds before it releases. But that's the scariest thing on earth to people. So it really does help to understand that you have to feel them, and to have someone holding your hand there, guiding you through the process where you use your breath and your courage, it helps make it a lot easier. So yeah, it's really just the two things about being able to feel your emotions as they pass through, letting them move instead of stopping them down, and understanding that they have a message there for you. One last thing on that is our emotional guidance system is something I talk about a lot. Anything that feels light and easy and bright is a thought that leads you towards your ultimate desires. Anything that feels heavy and queasy and when you think of it, it's actually a lie that you're thinking that's leading you away from your desires. The universe just plays a big eternal game of hot and cold with people. You know that game when you play when you're a kid, when you're like hot, hot, lava? That's all our emotions are. It either tells us you're going towards your desires if it's light, or you're going away from your desires if it's heavy. And it gets to be that.
You mean medicating isn't going to help?
Not really, no.
Just medicating those pesky feelings so you don't have them?
Yeah, just suppress them.
Take a pill for that. If you feel something, the hot, hot, cold, cold game, don't play that.
Oh my gosh. That's the worst thing, because allopathic doctors, they medicate symptoms, but our symptoms are actually our body's way of healing itself. So they're actually suppressing your body's mechanism to heal itself, because it's not the symptom that's the problem, it's the thing underneath the symptom.
Right. Cause and effect.
Oops.
So if somebody wanted to contact you after watching this video, where would they go? How would they find you?
Come find me at the Vibrant Success Club. At the moment, my website is vibrantsuccess.club, C-L-U-B, or find me on Facebook. I'm Kai Ashley, K-A-I-A-S-H-L-E-Y. I would suggest to sign up to my email community, where I send out lots of amazing transformational content, and you can just chat with me on email if you want, or come follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, where I have loads of EFT tapping videos for free.
Okay, and I will put links to all of that in the information section below.
Yay! Thanks so much for having me today.
Yeah, well, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
If you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you'd like to stay up to date with my videos, please subscribe. If you would like to be notified via email whenever I release a new video, please click the bell next to subscribe. If you have any comments or questions or would like to go into a dialogue about this topic, please leave them in the comments section below. I'm Nathan Martin with the Divine Pollination Hive and the unityprocess.com. Be safe, be sovereign, be well.